Hi everyone, this is Yapi. Yes, I want to look at another potential revelation on where Canaan settled right in the beginning. So we're going to look at when Noah divided up the territories amongst his sons, Shem, Ham and Japheth. And in a previous video I've done a video on Ham's area, so that you know which area he got. Some believe he got the whole Africa, but he didn't. He get half, or not half, but about 60% of Africa. Everything on the west side of the Nile River. Back in those days, the Nile River started in South Africa, right up through Egypt, out at the top. And so let's start with chapter 9. Chapter 8 is where Noah divided up the territories like this, and I've done a video on showing where these points are in Ham's area, so we know exactly what he got. This is what it looked like. Ham got this part of Africa, this side was Shem. Shem also got this part here, and Japheth got Asia and Europe and some islands. So let's go back to the verse. And Ham divided amongst his sons, and the first portion came forth for Cush towards the east. Towards the east means on the east is this side of the area they got. Remember, he got up to the Gihon, so closest to the Gihon River, the Nile River. This is what the first son received. It says the first portion came forth to Cush, so that next to the Nile was Cush, and to the west of him Mizraim, and to the west of him Put, and to the west of him Canaan. Mizraim, Put and Canaan is the others. So we have Cush, then Mizraim, Put, Canaan. So it doesn't say from north to south where they received, it only says from east to west. The first son got first, and then the second next to him, and next to him, and so on. But what it does say is that Canaan, his area was on the coast, on the west coast of Africa. So it could be from Morocco right down here to South Africa. This all west coast here. So we don't know where on the west coast did Canaan receive his area. It doesn't say. We just know that he got on the west coast. And then we go to chapter 10. Verse 28, and Ham and his sons went into the land which he was to occupy, which he acquired as his portion in the land of the south. What that means is all these areas that the three sons received, Africa is south of all the territory. Japheth's is Asia, which is above, more north. This part of Shem was also more north than Africa. So when it says to the south, it means to the continent of Africa. It's the south continent of the areas that they received. It's most south. That's what it means. To the south. And then verse 29, and Canaan saw the land of Lebanon to the river of Egypt, to the Nile. So according to this, it is by the Nile River. This Lebanon is by the Nile River because it's up to the Nile River. It's an area on the east side of the Nile, because that's the area of Shem, but it's up to the Nile River, Lebanon. That it was very good, and he went not into the land of his inheritance to the west, that is to the sea, and he dwelt in the land of Lebanon, eastward and westward from the border of the Jordan, and from the border of the sea. So the only way I can explain this is either one of two things. There used to be a huge sea here in the Congo, that's not there anymore. So it says it's from the Jordan to the sea. So either, according to what I looked into, the Jordan must have been in Kenya here. So it's from the Jordan to this sea here, or from the Jordan to this sea here. Because this sea of the Congo is right next to where the Nile River used to go up. The Nile used to be, these lakes here used to be part of the Nile River. Now it dried up and now it's split up into smaller lakes. But here by the mountain there is Ruwenzori. That's, I believe, Mount Zion. This river flowed around it, but this Ruwenzori still supplies this white Nile today. So the Nile still goes up to here. But this that I colored in blue, I think it was a bit wider, closer to this Nile River here, or maybe around there, was the sea. So that's why you could say from the Jordan to the sea here, this side. It won't be the sea on the west side because that's where he got originally anyway. It must be on the other side of the Nile River, which, as I said, I believe it went up this way, up to Egypt. Let's have a look here. It went up here by Rwanda and up to Egypt, and then the Congo's lake, the sea, was up to here. You can look at the topography of Congo. It used to be called the Zaire Lake. They changed the name, and it was up to here. And so the Nile River was right next to the sea. So it's basically Uganda and Kenya that, Uganda and Kenya that Canaan settled in at, around the equator, because it's the best area. And when we look at the northern border of Israel, Numbers 34, I drew a line here to give you an indication where the northern border was. You can see it goes through Uganda, Kenya there. I'll try to show you on Google Earth here. There's the equator, just above the equator here is Mount Hor. Numbers 34 says the northern border is from the West Sea, or the ocean on the west. You draw a line to Mount Hor, and then let's see, there is South Hor, you see it, there's Hor, Mount Hor is here. So there's the equator, right above there, that's Hor. Let's zoom out a bit. That we know where it is. It's on this line here. That up to this, I believe, Congo Sea. It went across here to this Mount Hor here, was the northern border. And from there it went up towards the entrance of Hamath, which I believe is this place here, this area, by the Horn of Africa. This is also where they came across the Amorites, where they beat them first. They took the area first, and 2.5 tribes wanted to remain on this side by Somalia, Ethiopia side. They didn't want to cross the Jordan here in into Canaan's original territory. They wanted to remain on the other side, but they helped Israel fight Jericho before they went back over the Jordan to their area here towards Somalia, which used to be where Og of Bashan was, and Sihon, king of Heshbon. I think I'll show another video about Ochu. The Ochu mountains is here, and this area here was called Och Aden. So yes, this was where Och of Bashan used to be, here by the Horn of Africa. And 2.5 tribes remained on this side. The rest of them came down here in Kenya and Uganda. And that is another proof, I believe, that Canaan settled in Africa. On the east side of the Nile, he settled there. Here in Africa, on the east side, here, Uganda and Kenya. This is where he settled. He didn't want to stay in his territory here on the west coast, so he went across the Nile River, and as we read in Jubilees 10, he moved to the river Nile, land of Lebanon to the river Nile. So this land of Lebanon goes up to the Nile River on the east side, because that's the side of Shem, and that's the only place it can be. It must be right next to the Nile River. The promised land is next to the Nile River. It cannot be in Asia. It cannot be Palestine. There's no Nile rivers there. It says here it's Egypt's river. We know where's Egypt. It goes through Egypt, this river. So this is in line with what we read in 2 Chronicles 32 verse 30, where Hezekiah dug a tunnel from the Nile River to the west side of Jerusalem. So again, it said that Jerusalem was on the side of the Nile River, next to the Nile River. So Jerusalem is in Africa. That's the only place you can look for these places, according to the Bible. Don't believe these lies they're telling you today. People grow up with this information of, oh, that's Israel, that's the real Israel up there. It's like the spinning ball earth. They cram down the children's throats from childhood, and when they grow up they think, oh, it's fact. But then they find out, when they look into it, there is actually no scientific backing for a spinning ball. The same with this Israel, fake Israel. When you start looking at these verses, you notice, oh, but the Bible says it's in Africa. The Bible says it's next to the Nile River. The Bible says Jerusalem is surrounded by many mountains. It's on a mountain. Things like that. So how does that work? The Bible says that there's enough rainfall for plants to grow on their own there. People don't need to water the plants. The only place on earth where that's still the case is in the middle of Africa and the top of South America. And as we saw yesterday, I showed that now the next thing that's going to happen is the second Exodus, and according to those verses of the second Exodus, that territory is still lush. It has still enough water. Rain, it's still got enough water. There's wild fruit trees there. There's forests around Yahweh's mountain, Mount Zion. It's today, according to those verses. In the times we are living now, there is forests and wild fruit trees growing there, and it's like the Garden of Eden. I think it was in Ezekiel 34, and that is telling us that that's the case today. So it means the fake Israel doesn't qualify as Canaan. Sorry, it doesn't. It's not the land of milk and honey. But anyways, this is the other proof I wanted to share with you all from Jubilees, that Canaan, the land of milk and honey, is in Africa. And it must be around the equator, because that's the only place that qualifies with the amount of rainfall they get. Okay, enjoy your day. Bye.